to everybody, my friends. Welcome to Wednesday night. It's Vibrant time, and I'm joined by the ever loyal and reliable Gabriel, the slickest of dissidents here, and returning all-time champion George Mesa. George, what's up, buddy?
Hey,
we are
great.
Welcoming to the show for the first time our friend Oliver Brusca, who makes music that you just heard under the name Volo, V-O-L-O, all caps, although that doesn't really matter in search results, but it looks cool. So I'm really excited to be talking to Oliver. He hit me up a few months ago. I think it's been a few months, just letting me know that he likes the show. And I was like, we got to do a Vibrant. You know, it's not often enough do we talk to musicians or painters or artists or people that are pursuing that type of a lifestyle and doing it with a high level of consciousness. And like Stacy says here, we got an amazing cast and crew. Thank you, Stacy. So Oliver, welcome to Vibrant, and thank you for all the music I've been enjoying over the last couple months. I'm a huge fan.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I totally appreciate it. And I've really connected with your podcast a lot. And I've gone through different flows of just getting into different webs and communities. And for some reason, this one has really been super resonant. So yeah, I'm glad you're feeling the connection to the music, and I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, guys. George, what are your thoughts? I know that you're definitely a music guy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I love the variety, first of all, especially in the genre that you're in. There tends to be a lot of, a lot of repetitive nature, kind of lazy stuff. Your stuff ain't lazy at all, and the production's great. And, the different instruments that you bring from different continents. And even when you have vocals, I think it's really complimentary. It's well done, man. It's coming from a great place. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Appreciate that.
Yeah, let's talk about it. What I think about your music is that in an age where so much is lower minded about music, I think music can be what it is. And I'm not necessarily like a purist, not freaking out or anything, but there's been on purpose an engineering of particular types of music to lower the human consciousness. And when we look at the past, humans used music to elevate their minds to a higher ideal, whether it was a spiritual ideal or just some kind of social cohesion out of the harmony of music. And yeah, dude, I think that your music is in a place and played in places like you probably are bringing light to places where some of it is a little darker. Like I said, I'm not judgmental or anything, but I appreciate the spiritual elevating feel of the production that you do. I'd like to talk about that.
Yeah, dude. That's interesting you say that, because when I was playing some festivals last summer, I got this feedback a lot of just the music being this really refreshing thing in the atmosphere, especially if there's just like a lot of dark, wubby kind of deep stuff. And I think it adds a nice balance to what is out there and what's being played. And I'm really excited about music production, just the vastness of possibility. And it feels funny that things tend to become really repetitive and limited when there's just infinite possibility with music production. You can so many different sounds, and like it's endless. So it's just I think it's great to be able to explore and add some diversity to what's already out there.
Yeah, dude, I'm curious about, what you've learned on your journey to where you're at now, from the point of being somebody like, I think I want to make music. I think I want to make this my lifestyle. I was always really sorry about the dog. I was always really interested at the beginning of creating the show, especially like, how do people make their passion into their livelihood? And, and music is one of the hardest places to do that. And so, obviously it's okay if there's other income streams and things like that to make it work. That's part of floating the boat. But, I'm curious about that adventure and that journey and connecting to the abundance of universe through this particular offering, because it's one that is so widely utilized and appreciated, which is music, yet somehow one of the hardest ones out there to make it doing, oddly enough.
Dude, yeah, it's so real, and it's been such a journey. And I had this really deep feeling when I first started dabbling in music production, which was in high school, and I really had this feeling of like, oh wow, this is something that's really, I feel good at. And nothing else felt so true in my life. Like, it felt like the truest expression I had. I feel like so much of school system stuff and the way I was being pushed, like nothing felt like true and real, but music was this first thing that I was like, oh my gosh, I feel this immense freedom. And I was just like, I have to do this, you know, but everything was kind of, it felt like it was going against the grain in so many ways to choose a life where I was just sustaining off of music. But I was working at an insurance company when I was in college, and there was just like this terrifying feeling of just kind of seeing people that were much older and just seeing them being worn by a job they don't like to do. And I was just like, I have to just commit to music full on. And I gave myself like no plan B really. I was just like, right when I get out of school, I'm just doing it, and I don't know how it's going to work out. And yeah, it was a super big struggle, honestly, when I first got out of school, and I was trying to be like, okay, I have to pay rent, get food, and I'm trying to just have everything be fully from music. And I just like really wasn't at the level where that was even possible at that time. But I was kind of, some people call it like stubborn, but I just felt like it was bold and courageous, and I just kind of went for it. But yeah, I think over time, I realized I needed to get something just to like sustain me temporarily while I was in that direction. So I did some freelance web design, and I worked at a grocery store on the night shift here and there, but I always was like, okay, I'm going to do this for like 2 months and then I'm done, and then I'm full music. But it was just, it's really amazing how it worked, because it was like years of kind of living month to month and not knowing how I'm going to pay rent at the end of the month. And then something would just like, I would get some random payment that felt like it was out of the ether that would come like the day before. And it was almost this thing of like keeping me uncomfortable enough to be like really lit and focused on what I was doing, but not too comfortable to like kind of stagnate. So I felt like it was helpful in a way, but really uncomfortable.
Yeah, guys, you guys want to weigh in on this? I personally really appreciate what you just shared there about the like right at the moment it's needed. Universe was like, this is the way. You know, it wants us to not have a plan B. It wants us to go fully into faith of our like what we love.
Yeah, you know what's coming to my mind, and this is like kind of picking up where George, I think 2 shows back with George, the idea that music is the Moshe, it is the music, it is the Moses, it's the Savior.
Oh yeah, Moshe the initiate.
Yeah, and you put your faith in it, and it saves you repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm thinking about. Did you hear that show where they insinuated that Moses might be the music? Did you pick up on that?
I think that's your insinuation, Gabriel, but I'm cool with it.
No, but it's still.
I think I was pointing out that the word music comes from is the same root MSE or MSH as Moses and
exactly.
And muses, of course, but like that mim shen hey, yeah, like there's something about that. I think I was alluding to like the musical theory being a potentially a mosaic remnant in a way, but I've actually kind of backtracked on that. The more I've continued to, and Universe is just putting music stuff in my lap, the more I'm seeing like, okay, maybe this structure and this language of music is for a good reason, because of what happens when we go out of order too far with what music is socially acceptable. How that, like, you know, it's a chicken or an egg thing. Does it cause social degradation or does it reflect social degradation? But, you know, we do what we can to be harmonious and bring order. Then maybe music being a difference between objectively good and objectively bad is actually okay. And that being sort of willy-nilly and experimental in the chaos too far isn't itself evil, but, you know, you learn things along the way that, and then you get stuff like the Rolling Stones playing Sympathy for the Devil and people killing each other in the crowd, you know, happening more than once based on one song. And Mick Jagger's like, oh yeah, people always fight when we play that song. You know, what's going on there?
Yeah, if it's manufactured for the culture for a purpose, then that's choice C, I guess, where it does exactly what it's supposed to do over time, over a long period of time usually. But it seems like there really is this decade shift each time, 80s, 90s, 2000s. And the culture moves with it. Culture always moves with art in any direction. And I'm sure we'll end up discussing that at a whole bunch of different levels. But it's what we were saying about the music, you know, soothing and healing. It gives back to you no matter what. Even when I've been injured, I was still able to play at whatever level I needed to. It was never in the way, unless I didn't have anything broken. But a bad injury in a finger or a bad back, it never, as soon as the music starts, I'm healed. I'm ready to go. Nothing's going to affect me. And maybe it'll come back when I'm done playing, but music doesn't necessarily give you money, but it gives you all the rewards you could ever want when you're either performing it or listening to it, you know, certain types, of course. So yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah, it feels really profound. Sometimes, just recently, I've gotten some messages from a few people. Occasionally, I'll get these messages that really hit and they're really deep, where somebody's like, you know, going through a really dark time in their life, even sharing that they might be like borderline suicidal or just like in that phase. And, you know, they'll say like, oh, I listened to your music and it gave me like a will to live or a will to survive. And it's like, what is that? That's such a profound thing that, you know, just listening to sounds can do. So that's something I'm like, you know, I see a deep healing aspect of music, but just there's so much there that can really do something that I think almost nothing else can do.
Well, one of the things about your music itself, now that I'm thinking about this topic and reflecting on it, and it's hard to describe music verbally, whether or not people have heard it. So, I hope people go check out Volo, and maybe we'll play another song at some point in the stream. But there's a consistency. I mean, not every song is the same by any means, but there's a consistency in terms of a feeling that I get when I hear your music. Now that I think about it, that almost does have that like epic hero in the movie at the clutch moment scene where it's like, I will survive, I will make it, you know, like I will transcend whatever it is. And there's like that, there is almost like that calling to rise. And that's what I meant about elevation in your music. And so like, even that sense of like, I don't know how I'm going to make it, but I'm going to keep going. That feeling of maybe even living a little bit miracle to miracle, as you were describing at certain points of your journey, that definitely that consciousness does come through in the music. And that could lift somebody out of like a dark place. I mean, it's literally lifting up in the consciousness of the vibe. So I love that about it.
I love that description. That's awesome. Just the clutch moment. And that's if you look through some of my artworks, I've kind of had this theme of just like this avatar character, kind of this like epic kind of, it feels almost like a, you know, cinematic, bold, courageous, like feeling that just feels like I want it to feel like anybody can feel like they're that, you know? And so I guess, yeah, the way you describe that is something that I've felt really connected to.
Yeah, I was actually already queued up to share some of the album art that you've got because I love the choices you make. By the way, is this Izzy Ivy right here?
That's totally Izzy Ivy. Yeah, she's a dear friend of mine.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
she's on the show a long ass time ago. I've been meaning to someday invite her back. A friend of mine bought her tarot that's got her paintings in it. It's not really a tarot, it's an oracle deck. And I was flipping through it and I was like, oh man, I forgot how litty Izzy is. So
totally,
that's cool. Like her style is very recognizable. That's cool that you are friends with her. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's even worth talking about too, is one of the things that comes out of you doing what you do, maybe you could speak on this, is you create opportunities for other people, right? Like, I need some album art, I'm gonna get an artist, you know, how has that worked out? Is there other people can rise with you, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's been one of my favorite parts about just presenting and releasing music. I follow a lot of artists, like I'm a huge fan of art, and the artwork feels super important to me. Just it's the first thing people see, and it's how it's being presented. So I've done a lot of commissioning artists and painters to I'll like show them the music I'm working on, and I trust their creative input. I'm like, okay, like make an album cover for this, and I just really will invest and like find people that I love for the artwork, and that feels really important. And talking about Izzy, I did a few painting workshops with her, and I've been really stoked on painting lately. So now I'm really excited about making my own cover artworks and going the direction of making like these immersive art exhibits where I play a set or something and have my paintings everywhere, or like a bunch of painters, and make this whole kind of realm or hold this whole world where music's playing and you're also looking into these, you know, canvas portals. So it's a whole like immersive experience. I think that's something that's exciting me more than like playing a festival or something, as like redefining how music can be experienced and what kind of spaces can be held to like experience music, where it's not focused only on dancing, but like, you know, immersing into a whole nother world. So that's something I'm pretty excited about and trying to figure out for myself.
I see a lion painting behind you. Is that one of your current projects?
Yeah, totally. That's the current canvas thing.
That's awesome. Do you identify as a Leo?
I think my moon sign is Leo, so I guess, yeah, there's something there. And you know, speaking of like, I just feel like that boldness and that like presence of the lion. And then I don't know if you can really see it, but it has like this like radiating like sun energy with all this like abstract stuff around
You
it.
might have to pull it up for us.
Yeah, I totally can. Do you want to see it? It's still in progress. But...
Oh yeah.
It'll be really appropriate if it's oil, as oil is the anagram for Leo. Oh yeah. Oh, cool.
That's coming out
Dang,
great.
that is awesome. That reminds me of my my biological dad. He's got a freaking huge mane like that. That's awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's like I don't really know what I'm doing, but
I'm a Leo born of Leos. I got Leo mama.
Nice.
Oh, you're thrice Leo?
Thrice
great. I don't know if you heard him say it, but it's an oil paint, and oil's
thrice great Leo. Yeah.
Okay.
That's really amazing, by the way. That is quite a good painting.
Thanks, dude.
Leo is obviously the greatest. I mean, coming as a Leo rising, obviously. George, do you have any prominent Leo?
No, Aries, Aquarius. That's what's prominent for me.
Oh, okay, that's still good. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it. But I have a lot of Leos in my life. I've had a lot of Leos in my life, and I have a lot of Leos in my life. Yeah, so plenty of Leo.
You know, though, what you were just bringing up, that brilliant idea for like the art portals with your music. Yeah, as somebody that's been to a lot of shows and a lot of festivals, there's something, there's a double-edged nature to the one person or one group on stage, and like all the attention, energy funneling towards that. You know what I mean? Like, I think that in the right intentions, in the right hands, somebody can channel all that attention, energy, and, you know, reflect it back as love to everybody that's there. And it's really powerful, you know, if you have that type of a prism up there. And I imagine that's probably what it'd be like to go to one of your shows. But on the other hand, having one person on the stage that's the special boy, I'm the king, you know, it can become like a looshing in a not so good way. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's really interesting to have this direct focus. And yeah, I was pretty deep into the world of festivals, and I've done a few tours, and a couple of years ago I was playing shows more heavily, and there's so many beautiful, amazing experiences, but a lot of the time something felt off about the whole situation, and something didn't feel quite right, you know, and it's hard to say what that was. There's a lot of different factors, but you know, a part of me really wants to play a bunch more shows, and I have the energy. I want to share the music and art, but just going and straight into the festival culture and scene, I feel like feel like there's room to create something different. And I think dispersing the attention onto art and allowing people to have their own experience where it's not just this focalized on one thing, where they're just like seeing, you know, visuals are cool and lighting is cool, but it almost feels kind of like cheap tricks sometimes. And yeah, I don't know. There's more potential. I feel like that could be explored for sure.
It's good that you mentioned that it's hard to strike a balance.
Oh, what's that, George?
Oh, I was just saying it's great that you mentioned that it's hard to strike a balance between which one you want to be the prominent one, because the visual can really take over the art, the music, I should say, and vice versa. You know, like when you go to some of the, you know, what do you want to call fancy or new age art, where sometimes it's just one paint stroke, but there's 3 paragraphs to the right of it to explain that paint stroke, you know, like which one am I focused on now, the words or the art? So I know what you mean with that. You gotta balance it right.
No, I think that we need to be just making more. I think that part of it is that the festival economy is too sort of aggregated into giant. Something about humans are like locusts; they swarm after there's too many there. You know what I mean? And like Music and Sky, we were numbered in the hundreds and in the low hundreds, and you know it could be larger than that and still be okay. But an event like that didn't feel like the Lushing situation. You know, the artists that were on the stage was like the same level as everybody else because there weren't so many of us that they needed to be elevated. And again, like all of that traditional stage thing, main stage, it's not in itself the problem, but I really hope to maybe see you at one of those, because you can sort of recapture the beautiful aspects of festival culture, but with the other attendees being, you know, hip to energy and like positive intention and healthy beings and like family friendly and all that. And not, you know, because a lot of festivals, as much as I love the experience, many people that are attending would have been just as happy to have an empty field to do drugs in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it can feel like that sometimes. And I think now I'm just super sensitive to the big festivals and big amounts of people. I don't know how I used to do it before, but I love the smaller, intimate festivals. They're really more of what I want to be part of. And I'm really being more selective about like what I'm choosing to be a part of and play, and you know, being at places that I vibe with and that I want to be, you know, that feels really important to me, because I used to just sign up and take whatever offer or whatever opportunity came my way, and I would end up in this place where I'm like, I feel like I'm not meant to be here. This feels like, yeah, maybe I'm bringing some light into a place that might need it, but then I also have to take care of myself. And that feels really important to kind of keep myself feeling good. But then it's been a balance between like exerting myself, but then not letting myself get burnt out or run down or all these things. So that's been a constant balance for me, just with my health and with everything, you know?
Yeah, man, you can burn out real easy if you end up saying yes to everything because you feel like you have to. And after, you know, I've been playing live music for 25 years, man, I basically said yes to anything I possibly could, even if it was free. And of course you get burnt out, man. You get burnt out fast. And I didn't want to play some of those shows, especially the bar type shows, you know, but same idea. It's the balance is very hard to make. And if you put yourself in a position where you finally can say no when you need to, that's great. You know, that's a good thing. You know what you need.
You can always say no.
You can always say, that's what I'm saying. You know what
Owen Benjamin says that evil is defined by having no boundaries. And maybe that's not the only thing that evil is, but like, that's a really good point, that if you have no boundaries, you will wind up like, you know, having to interact with what feels like evil because you never said no to it. So Jenny wants to know, what are your thoughts about silent concert social experiences? This would be like, I've seen this at events before where like you walk into the disco and the DJ is playing, but everyone's got headphones, like over the ear headphones. Yeah. You ever done any shows like that?
I've never done a silent disco. So I'm not really sure how that translates or how that'd be, but I love the idea of doing a more silent experience. where people can all be in the music. Yeah, I wonder how that would change things if where everybody's on the headphones and it's all synced up. That would be really, really interesting to see how that just shifts how, because the whole thing with the show when you're playing music is you creating this whole thing that people are all in together. So I'm curious if people are all in their own headphone zones, if it would have the same effect. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, that sounds kind of fascinating to imagine. I've never been to one, but I feel awkward just thinking of like everybody else is dancing to something that I can't hear, you know, and like, but it's optional somehow. That's really fascinating to imagine.
Right. I know sometimes they have like a button and it's like there's an A, B, you know, you have red light, green light. So there's two different things at once. So you got to see the rhythm to see who's listening to what, you know, you can kind of like match up with the closest person or something. It's weird. It's definitely crazy.
I think the cool potential of that would be if everybody had like really high quality headphones. Because I feel a lot of times it shows people just hear, you're not, it depends on the sound system, but you're a lot of times not hearing the depth of texture and layers and everything. Like I love listening to music on headphones. It feels like such a different experience because it feels like I'm immersing into a world. And like when I make music, it feels like I'm in this atmosphere and I'm like in another world kind of. And so if people have like really high quality headphones, everybody can be immersing that much deeper. And then you don't have to worry about like, oh, if you're in this part of the room, it's kind of like the sound doesn't sound as great because, you know, there's all this acoustics with being in a room and it's kind of hard to be in that sweet spot. So I think sound quality aspect of it is pretty cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, I see today it's got to be so tricky as a producer. I mean, I've never really tried my hand at it, but you know, the question is like, are we making music for listening to in the car, or are we mastering this for playing through a phone speaker, or like, you know, is that a challenge?
It's totally a challenge. I feel like for me, I just make music for the way I would listen to it. And I mostly work on headphones. Like I've had nice studio monitors and for some reason I love the headphones experience, and that definitely has its drawbacks, but there's just something about it for me. And yeah, you know, when you play it on phone speakers or a little Bluetooth speaker, you're just like, you're hearing a fraction of the music. But, you know, there's a lot of people that will make music that's kind of more geared towards that or is more simplified, which is totally fine. But I hope everybody can have the experience of like listening to really deep, like textured music on a really nice pair of headphones. I feel like it's a whole different thing. And maybe people haven't totally experienced that and don't know what they're missing. I'm not too sure.
So this is totally a different question, but I'm curious, like what are some of the things, you know, in this community that we talk about that most resonate with you in your life and, you know, have spurred thought or change, or, you know, that you could share some interesting reflection on?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's hard to like define exactly what it was that really made me feel connected to y'all, but I think it's just being aware of the other layers of reality and the esoteric side of things. And I feel like I portray a lot of lightness in my music and a lot of like uplifting, but I feel like I've been seeing into a lot of the darkness in the world, and that's been really present for me. And I feel like not a lot of people, I feel like, are seeing it the way I do. And I'm like, whoa, like there's a lot going on under the surface. And it's just nice to have people that I feel like understand that. And about a year or two ago, I was having these night experiences where I'm like waking up in the middle of the night and just having really disturbing stuff. And there's not a lot of, I didn't have a lot of community or friends or people to talk to about it that have had similar experiences. And yeah, you guys just kind of go into topics that I'm like, oh, wow, there's other people that also understand this stuff and have had similar experiences. So yeah, it feels just like connecting to tribe and community of people that are on the same page, I guess, energetically or something.
We're talking like sleep paralysis.
Yeah, yeah, totally. That's sleep paralysis has been happening my whole life, but it would be like sleep paralysis and then like going out of body, not intentionally, is just like happening. And then I didn't really know what was happening at the time, but I'd kind of be wisping out of my body and then interfacing with just really super disturbing stuff, you know, and not really knowing what was happening. And I'd be like phasing in and out of just like what I would have to look at my hands and be like, okay, can I see my hands or not? And it would happen like 20 times during the night. And then I would wake up just completely drained and just like completely shook my whole reality to where I'm like, what is going on, you know? And so it took me a lot to kind of try to grapple with and understand with what was happening. And it's a whole it's a whole conversation. And I don't know if you want to go down that path, but
I'm interested if you're willing to go down this path, because I'm very curious to know like what you think maybe was happening. Michael H says, I see it too, man. Because for me, like for me, sleep paralysis precedes out of body as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's so much going on the subtle energy level in this realm, you know, depending on the locale that you live in, maybe like more urban or less urban, or the level of EMF pollution going on. Like I've theorized for a while that like beings of some kind are riding on some of these signals that are all in the air. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I see energy itself as consciousness, like whatever form it's in is, and whatever container it's in, or whatever maybe like field dynamic in terms of its flow or lack thereof, is somewhat determinate of what the like the quality of that consciousness is, or that energy is. And obviously a lot of the energetic fields and flows that we're immersed in right now are not natural ones. And so like some of that could be real disturbing if you're facing it in a more direct mind-to-mind interface. And I'm curious, like what maybe more we could say about this. This is fascinating.
Yeah, totally. I think I'm still like, it just feels so hard to comprehend. And I've been really trying to do research and find other people that have had similar experiences. And I was like deep into looking at the astral projection Reddit, and I've had sleep paralysis.
I'd be concerned about the quality of information from anything.
Yeah, totally. And and I'm like, how do I wish I had somebody that was like this old wise person that was like, ooh, yeah, you're having these things, let me teach you. But I just feel like I have no one to guide me, you know, and I'm just going and I'm being like thrown into water and trying to learn how to swim in this other realm. And
you get to be your own teacher though. There's like there's a strength in that too though.
Totally. And you know what I've taken from the experience so far is it's felt like a sort of Jedi training in a way, because I'm like when I was waking up out of body, and it felt like there was these kind of darker entities that were kind of instilling fear in me. And it was very obvious and apparent that they were like manipulating my thoughts and getting me to give into fear. And so it was this training where I would wake up and I'm kind of tired, you know, and kind of out of it. And so I don't have like the full strength to kind of like hold my ground, I guess. And I would have to just like drop in and be like, okay, I'm not afraid. And just, I could feel it like manipulating my mind. It was super like very manipulative feeling and very constricting. And so I was ending up getting to the point where I could just like feel this certain feeling that was happening. And then just, I would do this kind of creative visualization where I would create like this like sphere around me, and I would just like hold my ground and just like not give into fear. And that would just completely shift it. It was like, oh yeah, I have the power over this. Just understanding that there's like this deep manipulation happening.
It's like a banishing ritual.
Yeah, something like that. And, you know, I feel like I was just intuiting these things as it was happening of like, oh, maybe I should like create this sphere of light around my room. And I learned from some people, these things you can say, these kind of commands to kind of clear the space. And they do work. But the thing is, these things have like kept happening. So how do I prevent it from happening? Like, I feel like I can navigate it somewhat when I'm in it, but how do I prevent it from happening? And is this something to like explore more deeply? Like, I was wondering if I should maybe like try to astral project, so I have more of my like conscious, like I'm doing this on purpose and not being just like thrown into it, I guess.
Yeah,
but yeah, still such a mystery to me.
I think one of the keys is that term command. You know, you have to, you know, the projection of will is kind of essential in those vulnerable moments. You know, and the ability to be like, oh yeah, I'm the dreamer. I'm the one calling the shots, and to put that into action. You know, that is crucial. And everybody, you know, my banishing ritual was similar to what you're describing. You know, I have a triplicity of purple rings, and so they're like yours. It's like a circle of safe, protective space. And one thing I'll try to do to like almost distract myself from whatever it was is I'll try to make the 3 rings move in 3 different directions. And I can get the first 2 rings going pretty easily, but it's the 3rd ring at the exterior that I'm like, it basically just becomes a mental puzzle that distracts me from whatever it was trying to get the perfect safe space cast and moved with my will.
Yeah. It seems like that creates this level of like focus, you know, where you're having to balance this visualization that's a little bit more complex. So it's harnesses more of your like focus and attention, which I think is just the key when you're in that space, is just like having a level of like focus and like, you know, like we were talking about earlier with music, like having that like willpower and that like boldness to interact in those spaces. And I don't know how this all translates into my music expression. I feel like with my art, I've been more able to express these things because it's more visual. But yeah, there's definitely something there of like learning how to hold yourself and how to like exert your will upon like your sphere. You know, it's just a really interesting thing.
It's way harder to translate into music, that's for sure. Hocus pocus, yeah.
Hocus pocus.
Oh, I like that. It's so much harder to put this into music. It really is. It's hard to make the kind of dissonance that you may be experiencing in your life or hearing or seeing in a nightmare. You know, musically speaking, it's tough. It's tough to make it a palatable song, I guess, is the best word to use. It often doesn't fall into a typical song category. I mean, we often have a repetitive kind of hypnotic rhythm that repeats at least over the section of the song to give you that stability, that place where the melody can live, the place where the chords can exist, and kind of give the expectation to the listener after a few times through. This is already beyond what you may be trying to represent. Art is an easier way to kind of place it down, and I agree with that. You know, the way you have to manipulate time musically automatically puts you in a position where you almost have to do that, and you have to prioritize that on top of, you know, whatever kind of emotion you're getting. And it's hard. You have to mix major and minor chords. You have to mix all these different sounds. You can't stick to just this one thing. The emotion comes from the collection, and it's tough. It's tough because I used to have crazy night terrors. I barely slept for years, and I was playing a lot of bass overnight. I was kind of got the most practice time in. I was still hanging out with my friends till whenever. So I would come home and be like, you know, I don't even know if I'm going to sleep tonight, because they were waking me up. And I am the happiest person you've ever met. I'm the luckiest guy I've ever met. I have no reason to have nightmares. I've never even been in a fist fight. I've had a very wonderful life, and I had crazy nightmares like I couldn't believe. But it kind of got me to do something that I needed to do, I guess. I don't know how else to look at it, because it showed me lots of things. It almost prepared me for anything. Thankfully, none of those things have happened. But I'm ready for it mentally. I already did it. I've been there already, you know. And I always feel like you were saying, Chance, they're just kind of out there. Why else would I have received such weird dreams if it wasn't on my mind? Or, you know, maybe I watched a lot of horror movies, but it wasn't that stuff either. It didn't look like that at all. It had nothing to do with it. So it's almost like something's tapping you on the shoulder just because it happens to be in your area, in your realm, you know?
Yeah,
there's a million ways to look at it.
Yeah, and I did notice it was different in different, like if I was sleeping in different places, it was definitely definitely affected by where I was. And like
what's great
you were
is the
saying,
tuning
Chance,
forks.
I do. Mm-hmm.
You can clear a space out with those. You can feel it right away.
Yeah, I'll have to look into
I'd
that.
be interested to do a
I'm
tuning
looking-
that was involved, that was like sort of intentionally about, like bringing more integrity to your bubble space, if that makes sense. Because I do run into that a lot, in not like every time, but a lot of times in a tuning for a client. Like a big part of the problem will end up being that somewhere in their energy field, in one area or another, there's like a vulnerable spot where there's like, you know, where it's porous or perforated. And more often than not, it's actually because there's something about themselves that they've pushed so far away that they've pushed it completely outside of the boundary of their energy field. And now it's trying to get back in. And so it feels like an external attack. But, you know, what Gabriel said was the most clutch thing. Like, I am the dreamer. If you can make that assertion, you can actually take that outside of sleep paralysis, outside of lucid dreaming. You take that mindset to everything in life and watch what happens. Because like one of the biggest changes that occurred for me in life was when I started interpreting the things that were going on in external world the way that you would do dream analysis. And I was like, oh my God, it's no different than dreaming. We're dreaming right now. It's 100% the same type of you know, psychic experience. And another thing that came up that I thought was interesting in regards to the focus was like I had this recall while you guys were talking about, you know, the projecting of protective light and energy. I had this recall of when I was a little kid riding in my parents' car and looking out the window. And whenever I would look out the window and watch, like, you know, watch the fences go by and everything kind of in that blur, I would see, there was this being that I would see all the time when I was a little kid. It was sort of like Sonic the Hedgehog, but it wasn't Sonic the Hedgehog, but there was this being that would run alongside the car. And I would watch it running on the, Gabe, you saw this guy too?
Yeah, it was me. I would put myself outside of the car, running along, jumping over fences, tumbling and going on houses.
Dude, yeah. So I would see this little guy, and then like I would experiment with my ability to make him do stuff, but I couldn't always make him do everything. You know, like you were saying with like spinning the rings one way and another way at the same time, but like the third motion was harder. Like that would practice my ability to focus that visualization. But like why I'm bringing this up about the visualizations at all, other than that, it's funny to remember that, is, you know, you were led to this intuitively based on, and maybe you got some advice, it sounds like too, but based on the fact that you were like needing a way to assert your own power in your own bubble. And, you know, when people don't have the visceral experience of like seeing the beings or being in sleep paralysis, or like, you know, their third eye isn't super active, maybe they don't even have much of a capacity to visualize at all, that even in that place, in terms of third eye ability, visualizing and intentionally creating fields or barriers or protections, or like everything that you do in this space that we call visualization or imagination, is a psychic form that has energetic objective existence. And so like, you know, you were experiencing on a one-to-one level of like, I see that over there and I'm making this right here, and this, it's all in the same spot. But like, you know, people can actually do way more than they realize with this power of intentional visualization, even if they're not seeing the beings that might be like attacking, or like, you know, I'm not saying that there's external beings attacking. I think a lot of time, I think everything comes back to like our own energy, but it's in the way that it's flowing and the dynamics of it. That being said, you know, there are things that are experientially external. And anyway, after all this long rant, my point is that like, you know, people out there listening, do these type of visualizations, create these protective shields energetically. Like, you know, if you feel like you're about to go into, you know, it's not the truth now, but like back in the day where I'm going to the grocery store and I'm not wearing a mask, better, you know, gear up, lock and load, like get myself psyched up. You know, you can do these visualizations of barriers and protections and charms and like, you know, the whole gamut of possibilities. And it's all, despite maybe that you can't see it in your own astral vision or whatever, it's very real and it's very effective. And it's a super important, I think, step to maybe even realizing what this realm is as a shared dream space, that like we are the dreamer. We're dreaming as lucidly as we choose to and as willfully as we allow ourselves to. There was no question in that, but like somebody take it.
Yeah. What that kind of reminds me of is I sort of recent had like a psychedelic experience that kind of gave me some more information about just the sphere and surroundings around me. And it was a really kind of difficult experience where I felt like I was just being like pulled into like chaos almost and just kind of like fractaling off. And it didn't feel good, but I felt whenever I did any sort of geometry with my body, it rippled off and changed my whole sphere into a more pleasant environment. So if I just was kind of like intuiting these mudras, and then it would just, whenever I did it, it would instantly shift my whole sphere and space around me, almost like crystallizing around. And I all of a sudden had this realization of how important yoga is, and these like movements and geometries of our body and how that's shifting our sphere. And yoga has been a big practice for me. So I felt like I was like, oh yeah, I get it. This is more than just like good for my muscles, my body. This is creating these shapes that are affecting my sphere and kind of like creating that space around me that is the space I want to be a part of, you know?
Well said, man. Well said. Even just having a finger in a different direction than usual can change everything. You feel your pulse change, you feel your mindset change almost immediately. Just like when you try to, you know, take yourself down from a certain emotion, try to change your breathing pattern. It's the same concept. You're right about the yoga being the geometry, definitely. And same thing with dreams. You can dream it. Like you're saying, you are the dreamer, but in the dreams, you can control things if you put that kind of mindset into a moment when you may be, you know, set up with a situation you don't think you can get out of, you know, in a nightmare, let's say. If you just change whatever your avatar is at that moment, if you change it into even something simple like a triangle, if you think you can, that might just totally change the focus of the dream, might, you know, put it in the right direction. Yeah, I totally agree.
You know, one thing that I wanted to also point out was, George, you're talking about the difficulty of translating these type of dream astral experiences into the musical realm,
right? Especially
especially because of sort of the chaos of it and the non-structuredness of it. And so I heard this story today. I was listening to the newest Mysterious Universe, their like Tuesday members only show, and I'm a huge fan of that show. I've been listening to it for like a decade, but they've been on a kick of talking about esoteric music stuff and musical mind control and music conspiracy and like all kinds of, you know, stuff that we would love. And they brought up how there is a rare but documented condition where sometimes certain people that hear a certain like genre or type of music will have seizures and stuff and like blackout or like totally lose consciousness. And and then they were talking about just how like everybody has some physiological reaction to different kinds of music. Like if the tempo is up tempo, the heart rate of the person will get faster. Like even if it's not noticeable to you while you're sitting there, it's actually definitely happening. Measurably so. And so you know, music is this weird container of the consciousness of the person who made the music. And it can be, I think, healthy and helpful for the musician to create music out of what they're struggling with or out of their trauma or out of their hard feelings. And then like, because it's better out than in, you know, that's a valid form of expression that can help somebody like integrate. But because now once it's out, you can see it, and you know, now you know what it is, and that helps your body adjust and tune itself. But you know, I would be I would be actually like, I would be a little concerned about the type of, about showing people or listening to the type of music that came out of, you know, sort of demonic attack, sleep paralysis experience, if you were authentically trying to capture the feeling and the consciousness of that, because it would be like, you know, it would be like that note, like done, you know, like a surprising, shocking note. It'd be like if you just played that forever, like for 30 minutes with no resolution or something, you know, and like, I don't know how that would go for the physiology of the person, but then the feeling of resolving it, or the feeling of like, you know, understanding the dream and being the dreamer, that type of feeling put into music could be really helpful physiologically. But it's a wild world to like start to explore the deep effects that this music stuff really has on us. And, you know, like to the extent of how it affects plants, that I found out from listening to them, how you play classical music to plants and they're going to grow better. And then for even seeds that come from those plants that grew better will retain the benefits, even if those didn't grow with any music. And it's like for generations to come, that music like made the plants stronger. And so, you know, what are we doing with like our Cardi B's or whatever they're called? It's a real question. You know, I don't want to like infringe on people's creative expression or creative freedom, but when it comes to like what's being put into the mainstream, it's not really an expression of creative freedom, and it's an expression of what the ones that are like funding and promoting it want to put out there, and who they decide to give the platform to. So it's like it's a really weird time in human history at this moment because of the wide freedom. You know, like electronic music has allowed producers to experiment with any possible sounds like imaginable to the human mind, and like that's amazing. And there's some of the coolest stuff ever that's come out of that. But then on the other hand, like the stuff that is not very helpful to human consciousness, it's not very creative anyway, you know. So anyway, that's sort of my rant on that.
No, that's good that you were talking about you know, that it doesn't get resolved, so to speak. And that's in my experience anyway with nightmares. I often there's no resolution whatsoever. In other words, it's nothing but dissonance if we speak about it musically. And dissonance really does have a major tendency to need to resolve. So maybe you can still represent the dream somehow dissonance wise, but then you can use the music to make that resolution for yourself. Even if you don't realize it, it could be a subconscious, you know, resolution for yourself to get past whatever it was, hopefully, until the next one occurs, of course. But, you know, what about everyone else? I mean, my experience really, when I have nightmares, there's never a resolution. I wake up usually, and I don't, the dissonance is just there. What's everyone else's experience with that? Do you usually wake up from nightmares, or do you get to resolve them?
It's almost like the waking up is the resolution.
That's the resolution. Right.
Yeah. And I feel for me personally, it feels like there's a distinction between nightmares and like out of body experiences. It feels like they're two different things. Like I can very much feel like, oh, I had a nightmare, and I feel like it's affected by all these subconscious thoughts and patterns and conditioning. But the out of body experiences, it feels like more of like almost like an objective reality that I'm like in, and seeing like another layer of things. And it's just a very different feeling to those two experiences. But I think it's
the
cool
out of body can feel more awake than awake.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you can, like, that's the wildest part about it, is that you can, in out of body, you can see things more clearly, more sharply, you know, better than with your real eyes. But, you know, I have memories of this, like seeing the fan blades in my ceiling up close in hyper ultra HD, you know, better than if I was using my human eyes. And so that's why I fully believe that humans can actually heal from pretty much anything, especially when it comes to issues with like our sense organs, because there's some part of us that can sense and detect all that stuff without the physical thing to begin with. And so I think that that's how all sensing works, is we're sensing through whatever capacity this astral or out of body experience is, but then we're sort of in this belief state of embodiedness, like then projecting that into, or like splitting the light into the prism of eyes, ears, nose, you know, but it's really this like one primary thing. I think that's what synesthesia is an echo of, is the one primary like monochord of experience that gets divided into the multiple senses.
Yeah, totally. And I think the synesthetic experiences with music is really curious. And some people will describe having like really intense synesthesia where it can almost be extremely overwhelming for them. And I feel like I feel a mild version of that when I'm producing music. A lot of it's like I described, kind of being in this whole atmosphere and space, and certain sounds and textures will have this kind of shape and feeling to them, and certain colors. And it's funny when I work in Ableton, and I don't know if you've seen Ableton layout, but you know, you can like color code all the tracks, and I'm like very particular about, you know, basses are blue and, you know, these sounds are yellow. And I have this, it's almost like I'm creating an art piece with how I'm like laying out all my tracks, just because they're like, it's easier to organize that way, but also the certain sounds really have this certain color to me.
That's cool. A sound color palette.
Yeah.
I had a sweetheart a long time ago. She had synesthesia, and her particular form of it was that she saw all numbers and letters as specific colors. And so ones were always pink. Ones and R's were always pink, and like zeros and nines were always this particular green. And she always said that it's not just any pink. They're like all these uniform colors. And I thought that just kind of blew my mind, just to imagine what that must be like. And then all the other forms of it. You like wrap your head around just that one. And then you find out that some people get flavor or smell around music and stuff.
Yeah. It seems like it could almost be like really overwhelming and hard to function in certain spaces when you're just taking in almost like too much information to be like, you know, navigating reality.
Yeah, it's almost like we created these bodies as a way of filtering and sorting it out. Like there was just this primal chaos of everything everywhere all at once. And we're like, okay, I need a spacesuit to explore this chaos in. So that's what this is, you know?
Totally.
Like life support system.
Yeah. I think it's healthy to have like some sensory gating and some filters, but then being able to consciously like let the filter down and, you know, make some use of seeing through it. But if we're always just bombarded with all the different things, I don't know how we would necessarily function.
No, it's exactly like that. Like, some people want to escape from their body, and they see their body as a prison, and like, you know, this realm is an evil prison, and I've been trapped in this body and all that. But when you think about it, being in this body is what allows for us to experience music. You know, like the body itself with the different rhythm and flow and experience of senses divided from the monochord, if you will, into like, okay, now I hear that sound, and then now I'm smelling something, and now I'm feeling something, and like the order and the flow of that becomes a melody, you know. And like the senses are instruments that we're detecting the reality through, but also that we're feeling the music of this, you know, whatever it is that is the all. And I think it's awesome. I think that like this is high technology, and it's I think that it's a gift to be able to experience the all through the way that we do, so that it becomes musical, so it has the ability to harmonize rather than just sort of be like a nonstop.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting to bring all the senses in, you know, looping back to talking about creating a certain atmosphere to take in music. Like I was thinking of doing the immersive art experience, but what if you brought in more senses? Like you had certain smells that, you know, people say, you know, burning some sort of certain herbs will have this certain effect. So what if you took it to another level of like, you're burning these like really specific incense that also affect the space? And I think there's just so much.
You're talking about ceremony and ritual and magic now. That's what magic is. That's what ceremonial magic is, right? You're like picking and choosing all these elements.
Uh-huh.
I never thought about that the magic is like music when you're doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Totally. Yeah, and bringing that into like a music listening environment, you know, would be super powerful.
Right. Even just a certain frequency background. It doesn't have to be a song or anything. It could just be certain frequencies you combine for a certain sound, a certain feeling, and that could just be there, frozen. And that could be accompanied by the art and the smells and stuff too.
Totally.
Guys, I want to play another one of Oliver's songs. And this one's not too long. It's under 3 minutes, but it might be my favorite one of the, I don't know, favorite is a strong word. Everything, you can't really make favorites in life, but I really, really enjoy this one. And if you guys are cool with like a couple minutes of music, you know, if you need an intermission too, that's fine. You can walk off, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to play Axis Mundi,
Cool.
Nice.
which is so fitting to the topics that we get into. So enjoy this, everybody.
Cool.
Right on.
You know, like I don't mind if we're talking over it, but maybe we shouldn't. Thank you for this music. I've really been into it. Thoughts, reactions?
That was epic. That was really fun.
Short and sweet, little trombone action, right? That was sick, man.
Yeah, the horns caught me. I like it. It makes one of my favorite words is ambiance. I just love the word ambiance. You know, and it's like we were talking about smell and all those other senses. But yeah, it's got great ambiance.
Yeah, that's the atmosphere that he was talking about.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it feels really nice
to. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just about the song in general, it feels like, you know, it's this really big building. And then, you know, like you said before, that like clutch moment in a hero movie or something where it's just like really bold. And I had this like feeling when I was making it where I was just like, whoa, I just like this strong feeling, and I'll get it like in my body. I'll just like get this feeling in my chest where I'm like, whoa, something's happening, you know, like I got to just like keep this going. So it's a really visceral experience when I can feel like I caught something that feels kind of special. And Yeah, I like to drop into the big epic like moment, but then I really love the end of the song where it just kind of like it drops into this like spaciousness. So I just love like the contrast, and I think that's something amazing about the music art form is you can create these like really big arcs, and just having, you know, something that sounds loud because you have something soft and quiet next to it, and just playing with the medium of something over time is just, there's a lot of potential there.
You're right. And two notes next to each other, whichever one precedes or comes afterwards, they really make one note sound different in different contexts. Same, just like you were saying with the you know, the building of layering and stuff. It's a cool feature of it. But there was good, short and sweet, man. Really, you built a lot in that short time. It was great.
And if you put it in context to the whole album, then you're still riding that wave as you go into more music. There's like 9 songs on that album. Particularly though, I feel like that might have been one of the first ones that I gravitated towards just because of the title, you know, like that Axis Mundi idea. What is that? You know, what does that mean for you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I've been drawn to like Axis Mundi and not like fully even understanding the full context of it, but just feeling this feeling from that word and that phrase that I was like, okay, this is going to be a song sometime. And then I was just kind of waiting for the right song to fit that, because it feels something just like powerful about it and just like triumphant feeling. So just those feelings kind of match the feelings of the song when I was making it.
I've been thinking a lot about the spirit of, you know, like the myth of our society is, you know, it's like the spirit of the collective, and it's such a vague phrase, but I find it fits in so many places, and it's like you were conveying the spirit of the term Axis Mundi. The spear of it.
There we go.
The Axis Mundi spirit.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's
totally.
it right there. Yeah. I think that's getting at something like that I feel really intrigued by with music, is being able to capture like the vibe of a particular atmosphere. You know, like maybe you're on a hike and you have this overlook and there's a valley with trees and there's mist going through. Just being able to capture that feeling, you know, because it feels kind of like, what is that feeling? I don't know, but I feel like some songs can just capture these specific atmospheres, and I feel this certain feelings when I'm in certain landscapes that I feel like I feel infuses into me when I'm there, and then it comes out in the music in some sort of way. So I think that's just an interesting thing to be able to like kind of speak for nature in those ways, and speak to like give sound to these more widespread atmospheres.
I did break the fourth wall back there.
That's funny.
Brady says, where or what does your connection to the adventure or the journey come from? To the energy of the hero?
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, I feel like it kind of plays a little bit into what we were talking about in the beginning of just even choosing to do music in the first place has felt like just a courageous, bold, heroic act to just follow what felt the most true to me, even though, you know, maybe I wasn't having support from anybody in my close circle, and had to just like be the hero of my own situation and just be like, I'm like taking control of my life and I'm doing what feels real and trusting, and you know, just feeling my own life as this movie scene, and I'm in this like this choice of how I'm like choosing to navigate it, and just choosing the like heroic heart-led path versus the other option to that, you know. And so I think I just connected that just through my own life experience, and maybe that's why life threw me in that experience of it being not easy, so I could like channel that feeling and then emanate it to other people.
You know, one thing though I left on the table, you know, speaking about channeling things to other people, it's hard for, you know, those of us with the right intention, or I say right, the positive intention, or the harmonious intention, maybe is finally the best word I'll settle on. The coherent, harmonious, orderly intention. It's hard to imagine the opposite existing, but in an infinite universe, it must. So, you know, you're like channeling this coherent, harmonious, strengthening, uplifting intention through your music to people. But at festivals, man, and again, it's just like a microcosm of the whole world. So there's both, you know, there's all flavors of vibration there. It is what it is. But I've seen, you know, while in chakras blasted open on plant medicine type states, I've seen intentional like sending of the opposite onto people. You know, like I have a specific memory of seeing this sort of like, it was so weird that there was like a gang of them. There's like 4 or 5 of these dudes. I swear there's like a 30,000 person music festival. You know, these guys were wearing like black hooded robes, like literally like cartoon evil sorcerer wizards or something. And they were it was almost like they were just imperceptible to most people there. Like they had some sort of cloaking spell. I don't even know how to describe it, like a glamour, as they call it in the occult. And they were like cackling and laughing amongst themselves while they would like point at somebody in the crowd, usually the person that was like seemingly pretty intoxicated or out of it. And these little creatures that were hard to make out because they were almost like soft and fuzzy, almost like semi-solid shadows. They would come out from under these dudes' robes and like go in the direction where they're pointing, and they would jump on somebody's back. And then that person would, after a little while, start having like a really hard time, or like falling over, or swaying, or getting angry, or like different things would happen. And then these dudes in the robes were like laughing about it. I was really I only observed it for a little while, because then I was like, I need to get away from this. I was freaked out.
Yeah.
And I was a lot younger and less experienced. Yeah. Like, you know, if I saw that now, I might just go kick somebody's ass, but
yeah, break out the light shields.
Well, I would bust this thing out.
Yeah.
But you know, I bring that up just because you talked about your sleep paralysis experiences and things that you encountered in the out of body state, and I just don't know enough about the reality of what's possible and what goes on in the wider consciousness universe outside of the limited narrow bandwidth that we got. You know, I can't rule out that somebody somewhere at one of the places that you've been wasn't intentionally like, you know, I'm going to attach something to this guy and it's going to be profitable for me somehow. I don't know the full dynamics of like, you know, looshing and sorcery and all that. So yeah. I don't bring that up to freak you out, but just like, cause you always have the power as the dreamer. And it's like, even everything evil serves God in the end, because it only makes, you know, the good and the orderly shine through stronger as an obstacle that strengthens. But, you know, I'm just thinking about all that stuff from your stories and
totally. Yeah.
What do you think about this?
Yeah. I appreciate that, like insight and reflection, and weird shit for sure happens at festivals. It's a crazy place. And I think it's interesting because people are very energetically vulnerable, I feel like, you know, so I could see how that would attract people that are going after that. But the one thing I feel about
people's boundaries are down, or they have none to begin with. And then like, that's the perfect opportunity for predatory shit.
Totally. Yeah. And, you know, I've also witnessed, you know, a lot of weird stuff happening at festivals and just the whole gamut, like every, you know, amazing, just transcendent experiences. But then also there's, you know, especially the big ones, you know, you just get a wider range of stuff going on. But yeah, who knows all the stuff I've been exposed to, but I think at least when I'm playing, I'm like so in my zone and element that I feel like I feel I'm in that energy of the music so hard that that's creating some sort of thing. But yeah, maybe afterwards when I'm like super tired and I don't know.
Or who knows? Yeah, who knows? And I'm not saying that like you're attached to something or or whatever. But these festival realms are very bizarre, and it's like the reality is slipperier in them because so many people are open chakras in a more psychic experience of reality overall. And
Totally.
I feel like, we should talk off of the show and like just I kind of want to do a tuning with you just as like an exploratory science for me.
Yeah, well, let's do it. I'm pretty open. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. That'll be good. I'm curious.
Cool. Same.
I think about that the show that we did with Jerry Marzinski, and how I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jerry's work, but he's worked with extreme schizophrenics in a clinical setting for a very long time. And he's had a lot of success with working with them, but in his case, particularly because he has come to believe that a lot of these people's experience, even though they're individual to the client, that they are real, and that by engaging them and treating them as though they're real, and even entertaining the presupposition of these spirits that are haunting the people, that Jerry has had way more success in giving these people really strong guidance in fighting the good fight in the unseen world,
There's a lineage of psychologists that have done that, which breaks the rules of mainstream. You're not supposed to I think like if you worked at a mental hospital, you can get fired if you try to help the patients there deal with their voices as if they were real voices, or like
exactly.
I've heard stories of like patients trying to do exorcisms for each other, and like the staff breaks it up like, no, you can't do that.
Wow, really?
What are you healing this guy?
Being a loony bin here.
There'll be no healing here.
Right. Yeah. So one thing that I've come to realize is, for me, what Jerry was talking about, he's some of his advice for some of the clients was like, okay, well, now you need to, when the voice comes, you visualize yourself stuffing the voice with the mouth of the voice with cotton balls, and then duct taping the face of the voice shut so that it can no longer speak. And then he gives that as clinical advice for them to go, and they do it. They do these creative visualizations and they work. And so Jerry takes note. In the next client he has, he says, okay, you're going to stuff it full of duct tape and tape it shut. Or he'll give them like, I think it's Psalms 23. And of all the biblical verses, Psalms 23 seems to have some sort of result when it's applied for some of these fellas.
It's depending like hydrochloric acid against demons.
Right. Like in the movie It, where he says, "This is battery acid, you slime," and then he sprays him with his inhaler, and his inhaler actually fights off the clown. But yeah, that. So for me, I relate to that as a martial artist. And I realized that, I've been fighting invisible monsters since I was a child. And I got really freaking good at it to the extent where now I have really fun dreams. when things get scary, I just flip on the superhero.
Yeah, you're just an action hero.
Yep.
See that. What we're talking about too, I want to bring up like what has been effective for me whenever I've encountered demonic, if you will, entities, is you could actually defeat them with logic too. And so what we're describing, like these creative visualizations, using imagination to combat the stuff that exists or that's attacking us through the mind or through a psychic plane. Like out of body is a more psychic plane, even though there's sort of like a tangible, coherent reality to it, and that there's even consensus reality aspects to it. It's still, you're interfacing with it through a psychic level, and technically all of this is the psychic plane. There's not a distinction. This is a mental realm. But what I've noticed is that, okay, so you have the concept of Jehovah, which is Like I really liked how Clint Richardson defined Jehovah, and there's different reasons to define tetragrammaton or Yah or the supreme being in different ways. But like when we're talking about the idea of the Most High, it's essentially, you know, to boil it down to the simplest terms, we're talking about the self-existing original impulse for existence to exist. So like in the most basic level, we're talking about the spirit that animates nature. And if you could boil it down to one word, it is existence, or self-existing, you know, no beginning, no end, no other creator. It's just the is what it is, the I am, what have you. So when we're talking about things that are like demonic or satanic, just learning the meaning of words helped me a lot, because Satan means adversary. So if you're dealing with a being that is adversarial to this idea that we are calling Jehovah or God or the Most High, and that thing that, you know, the Most High or the original being, the creator, is existence itself, then what is adversarial or opposite to existence is non-existence. So you know, I think that this is more conjecture for me, but I think that maybe some of the beings that people encounter that attach to them or attack them psychically, or like the schizophrenic stuff, might even be like a pyramid scheme in the astral or psychic realm.
Pyramid.
That, like, seriously, I think hospitals might be a factory for this. That there's like entities waiting at the hospital for somebody who's in a lot of fear to come out of their body, and they're like, oh, don't go into the light. If you go into the light, you're going to be punished for how naughty boy you were. And, you know, you don't want to go meet God. You'll be punished. So just do what I say. And our master will make sure that you continue to exist and you don't have to go to hell. And then, like, it's a Ponzi scheme where all these different beings are in sort of like a middle management position with a manager above them, and there's nobody at the top. Like, I've always thought that the reason why the capstone's missing on the pyramid is because nobody's in charge. And that's like the ultimate conspiracy, is that it's just sort of like rival managers fighting for power in the corporation, which is a dead body. So my point in all this is that when I've encountered in the past demonic type entities or energies, or I felt like there was some sort of poltergeist in the space, you know, sometimes for very good reason, like stuff moving around that shouldn't, in a way that had a bad or malevolent feeling to it, is you just announce to these beings of like, whatever deal you made or whatever master you serve or you think you serve or that you are afraid of angering, it doesn't exist. Like, you're serving non-existence itself, and you are afraid that if you don't serve this non-existence that you don't even realize doesn't exist, you're afraid if you don't serve this master, then you won't exist. But the irony is you're avoiding going into the light, which would allow you to redeem yourself and even become incarnate and have an existence and a life again eventually. So in the service of that which doesn't exist, you are preventing yourself from existing. And all you are is a thought in my head right now. like every time I give that speech, like I felt it right now. Every time I give that speech, I feel like a lightning in the air around me. Like something is like, oh, damn, you're right. Okay, I guess I'll go into the light, because it can be reasoned with. So that's kind of a logical way of approaching it.
Yeah, totally, man.
What do you think, Chance? Anything ancestral with any of this? From time to time, it may be, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like another, tap on the shoulder from an ancestor or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think so. There's even a place in the biofield that ancestors...
Yeah, the ancestral rivers, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. I ran into that last week. That's not every session. It's maybe not even 1 in 10, but every once in a while, I'll be like hitting the spot of the ancestral river, and I'll be like, what is this? Oh, there's the ancestral river right there. And there'll be reason for that. And as soon as I make the connection that I'm touching the ancestral river with the fork, then a message will pop in my head of like what the ancestor wanted to say. It's very bizarre. And it'll be like, boop. Okay, this is it. This is the message. So that's a thing too. I mean, I can't define it, but That which exists always exists. And so our ancestors continue to exist in some level, even if that level is simply that we exist and we are an extension of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I have a theory about this, and it's such a hard topic to articulate, to put into words, because we're like, so one example what comes to my mind, George, with your question, is I have a grandfather who was tried very, very hard in his later years to be a strong contribution to a community, and he was kind of like a father figure of Alcoholics Anonymous in the entire state. Like back then, in his time, one man could cover a lot of ground, especially when Alcoholics Anonymous was coming into its role. And but I realized that he was driven by a lot of the demons from the decisions he had made that led him to become a better person. In some of those, and that's the only word we have for it. We have to use these metaphysical terms. And so he did have demons from his deeds and his behavior. And I often ponder how some of those demons or bad decisions, they didn't really die with him because they were instilled into his children, who are my mother and my aunts. And so in the weirdest ways, I see the specter of his early behavior when he was, probably a real bastard. And so in that is carrying the spirit of, there it is again, the spirit of the negativity and the negative influence he had before he changed his ways.
Right.
And so it's really hard to put those things to words and convey them. But I believe that in a strange way, my whole family is still haunted by the influence of his bad previous self that he was trying very hard to put to rest. And so, yeah, maybe that is one way that I've seen ancestral trauma kind of passed on, even though the man who did it is long gone.
Sure.
Some of that baggage is still around.
Definitely. Yep, that's very real.
And it's kind of funny how alcohol is almost, we could refer to it as the spirits. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like it almost it keeps those mistakes raw, so that the wounding or the scarring of whatever those things that he was trying to drown out, they don't really go away. They stay fresh, actually.
It does.
I think that your consciousness is like living in the water in your body, and if you're diluting that water with these other spirits, it feels like a salve. Ironically, as alcohol is a solvent, which is the same root as salve or salvation. It's your, in alchemy, the alcohol is a mediator of sorts. It's like it plays that mercurial role. But what ends up happening is it's taking you away, but it's giving you something that isn't you. I mean, that's what it does in alchemy. It takes something from something and it gives something to something. So it feels like you're getting relief from your pain because your consciousness is being removed from you. You're becoming less conscious, less aware, but it's giving you a consciousness that isn't yours. And if you go far enough, that's why when you black out, you're still walking around and doing stuff.
You can still do
Who
your
is
thing.
that? Who's doing that?
Yeah.
Is that you? Totally. It looks like you. It sounds like you. It's because whatever is coming in is in the vessel that you are. So it's like it's in your shape. It takes on some qualities of you because energy takes on qualities of the container that it's in, but it's not the same water that's poured in. It's not the same water that's in that cup, So spirits is not it's not an accidental term.
Right.
Totally.
And little Peter Pan action with the taking and giving too. Definitely.
Nice. And Peter Pan had that issue with his shadow. His little shadow would detach and he'd have to go chase it. You know?
Oh, I meant Robin Hood actually, but yeah, Peter Pan too. I meant Robin Hood.
They were both green with those fancy hats.
They had the same, yeah, really same. Yeah, you're right. That's funny, man.
So, Oliver, I want to ask you about, your flow state routines. Obviously, in a perfect life, not every day would be the same. But, what are some things that you do to help yourself stay in the zone or get into the zone? Like if you were if it was just an average day and you had nothing on your, to-do list that was so pressing that you couldn't, what are some of like the top 5 things you do in a day that also help you get into making music, or like that make you feel more prepared for whatever it is that you want to create, whether it's painting or music or something else?
Yeah, I feel like over the years, I've really been trying to find a rhyme or reason to what gets me into those really deep special flow states where like that feeling starts to like emanate in me. And I'm like, whoa, this is something special. Like that's really not all the time. So on a certain level, it feels like a level of discipline is really important to just be like showing up. And it almost feels like the more I'm showing up, the more chance it has to just connect to something really special. Cause it just doesn't always happen like that. So I think some level of like just showing up for it as much as you possibly can and just like devoting yourself to it. And I felt this thing where when I'm feeling kind of tested of like, oh, are you really wanting to do music? And like, do you really want to commit this hard to this thing? When I really do that, I feel like, you call it muse or something will just see me as like, oh, this person is willing to be the channel for that. And then stuff will show up. But as far as like daily practices I do, it kind of depends on the chapter of my life. But right now, I'm really deep into Ashtanga yoga. I have like a pretty solid practice with that. And if I do that first thing in the morning, flow state is much more easy to drop into. And yeah, I just get this feeling a lot where I wake up in the morning and I feel kind of just like this anxiousness of the world of like, okay, I got to do this and that and okay, check my email. And it's super important for me to relax that because that will just prevent it from happening. So yeah, yoga and breath work is huge for me because I think it's just easing my nervous system. That feels incredibly important. And yeah, just like a dedication, just a general overall like faith in the process and showing up as much as possible to it. Those are kind of, what has worked so far.
I have been doing my best to not be busy. Like that feeling of I'm busy is such a killer.
Yeah.
I think one of the great things about being a human tuner is that you see enough patterns in other people that are really rampant throughout the society that it's like when that pattern starts to come up in yourself, it's a lot harder to ignore. And you can almost like, you can just sort of ward against it better. So one thing is like people's right hips hold a lot of energy of, and not just the right hip, but just their root chakra kind of in the back right quadrant holds a lot of this almost like torture of the to-do list. And it doesn't, when you think about it, it's so silly because no matter how busy you are or you aren't, there's always an endless stream of things to do next until life in this vessel ends. So there will never be an end to the things to do or the opportunities. And whenever you're like running over the to-do list in your mind of like, I got to do all these different things, and you're just repeatedly, literally writing a checklist mentally and echoing it constantly, that's robbing, like that takes energy. Thought is energy. So you're actually robbing energy from the doing of things. And so, I do a lot. I try to be productive and I'm not like sitting on my hands or anything, but whenever somebody says like, I know you're busy, but I always correct them. I'm like, no, I'm not busy. I used to be busy. I'm not busy anymore. I'm chilling. I'm just doing what I want all the time. It's different than I do what I want when I want to do it. That's different than being busy. It might be that I do a lot of stuff, but busy isn't the word. Anyway, I wanted to point that out because maybe somebody that helps them to hear that, and that they're like, oh, I do kind of torture myself with a to-do list and I don't need to. It doesn't help. But what was that type of yoga that you mentioned? What is that about?
Ashtanga yoga. I'm not sure the best way to explain it, but it's a pretty traditional practice that a lot of other practices were based off of. And there's primary series and secondary series, and it goes beyond that, but it's a set sequence where it's like a specific flow that you follow, where there's like, you do sun salutations, then you go through a whole standing series, and then there's a stretches in between, and there's like a closing sequence. And so it's this, it's a whole specific, and it's pretty rigorous. And it can take, like, if you're going fast, an hour and a half up to like 2 hours to complete the whole practice. And for me, it hits all the levels of things, and there's poses in there that I wouldn't, you know, if I'm designing my own practice, maybe I wouldn't do this pose, but since it's in the sequence, I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. And I think the stuff that's most difficult is probably where the most medicine can be. So, and just having something that's like stable and consistent within the chaos of everything else, it feels helpful. And I'm not sure what it is about it, but it just, I've done a lot of different yoga practices, but doing that specific sequence and doing it consistently has been like such a game changer for me. And it's a radical difference in my day if I like don't do it versus when I do it. It's like so just like so palpable. So I try to prioritize it as much as I can, and, you know, not being crazy about it, but it's an amazing practice.
I had a really close friend who was a Ashtanga teacher.
Okay.
And I've had quite a few sessions, and I'm a big fan of it. But I've gone to some of his classes that went 3 hours, and I got to say, if you're new to it, don't go for 3 hours right away. Build your way up to the 3 hour thing, because I came home and I laid on my couch and I couldn't get back into my body. I was like, somehow I was like removed from myself, and I had to go through a whole nother hour and a half of returning to the body, because I was literally,
It can be super intense. And I feel like some Ashtanga teachers are really intense too. And, you know, there's a reason for that, because they're wanting you to like explore your potential, and they're not trying to make you feel cozy. They're like, okay, you have potential to get deeper into things. But yeah, I think there's a lot of room for more softness with being a teacher in that, and knowing how to modify and not hurt yourself, you know, because I've actually I think I have a lot of fiery energy where I just like, I need to move, and that practice is a good channel for it, where I just like can just release a lot of energy, but also go into this like deep meditative thing afterwards. And but I've definitely hurt myself just kind of being too fiery about it, and just getting deep into this like crazy binded twist and not being careful. So
you know, we Chance and I had this kind of fun linguistic revelation that I think is kind of nifty for an Ashtanga practitioner. How the word lymph and the word phlegm are interrelated, and Ashtanga is all about the flame. And getting the heat generated to circulate, you know, that lymphatic cleansing. I thought I'd just hand that off to you.
Yeah, I love that. Just really getting that cleansing fire moving through the body.
George, do you ever do yoga?
I've certainly done a good amount in the past. I haven't done any, maybe in the past, like about 3 years off of doing it at any regularity at all. And I'm an extremely flexible guy, so I always thought that was going to give me an edge when I first started, but I still didn't have that internal strength, you know, like I'm hyper flexible. I got this thing called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, actually. So it gives me some benefits. I can definitely do some things, you know, really well. I can get myself into weird positions. But when I was doing it, I was with somebody that was in he had his own band, and I interviewed him actually on my show recently, and he.
Oh yeah, I saw that guy.
Yeah, that guy Dan Bailey. He's a yoga teacher also, and he's done all kinds of different types of it. And he was just doing a simple routine. We were doing maybe like an hour and a half tops, very low energy, nothing crazy. But my day was very different from there. You know, same thing with going to the gym in the morning, even if it's just cardio. And, you know, at first you'd expect in an adolescent kind of way, like, oh, I'm going to waste all my energy at 7 a.m. I'm never going to make it through the whole day. But I had more energy.
Totally,
I had more, and mental acuity for just being ready for the gig that was going to be, 20 hours later that night. And just my hands were just ready to go. And warming up musically wasn't as necessary. I'm not like a warm up kind of guy for shows or anything. I never really get the time, but I didn't have to. I didn't feel like I ever had to. It made my whole day a much easier thing. And I feel like a flow state could be achieved better for the work I'm doing in front of this camera all the time too. And now that you guys are talking about it, I'm thinking about it, remembering the yoga I used to do. Yeah. And to keep my hands strong, and if anything else, but I'm up super early. I got these 2 little babies. So I think once they're just a little bit older, I'll be able to get right back into a good, steady yoga routine. I'd love to. It would be a life changer for me. I haven't done it in a long time, actually.
Yeah. Baby juggling counts.
Yeah, I agree. I'm doing things now. My core is, my arms and legs and core are pretty good. But no, I could use a lot of it. I would love to get right back into it again.
Have you guys seen those videos of amazing dad saves?
Yeah, I've seen some for sure.
They have there's quite a few of them out there. It's really amazing how many there are to choose from. But it's these compilations of dads in real passive positions, and the baby's about to fly off the edge of the couch, and dad does this unthinkable save, and he just snatches the kid from certain doom.
Right, crazy one hand reach over. Yeah.
Yeah,
Stacy here with Daddy and Me Baby Yoga. Nice. That is a great idea. I'm definitely going to do that. Thanks. I didn't
make a song about that feeling.
It's funny. It's like a dad can redeem himself. Well, speaking as a dad, I can't speak for a mom, but a dad can really redeem himself with just that 1 second of ultra awareness that just comes out of nowhere. You just surprise yourself sometimes.
Maybe that's the ancestor coming in and I'm asserting command of the vessel for a moment. We need to protect our seed.
Yeah, you're taking over.
You'll thank me later. Yeah,
totally. One of my I don't know if I'm proud of this or embarrassed by it. I don't know which it was, but I am so blessed that it happened the way it did. It was a very, very long day. All the days were long days, but you come home and you got to entertain baby because mama's off to work, and now it's your turn, and she passes the baby torch to you. So I thought I was so slick because I took the lawn chair and I put it right at the edge of the swing, the way that she's on her baby swing. And I put it right at the spot where I don't have to move, and I'm sitting in the chair relaxing. All I got to do is just flip my wrist, and the baby is pleased for at least, maybe 40 minutes. And all of a sudden, the swing rope snaps. She goes flying in the air and lands perfectly into my lap.
Wow.
It was wild. It was so wild. And I was like, wow. The angels really showed up. They really showed up, and they taught me don't be trying to take a minute off. You gotta always be on your toes.
Oh yeah,
we'll give you this one.
Yeah, that was my pass. I got that pass.
Wow.
So Oliver, I want to ask you another question, buddy.
Yeah.
I'd really like you to elaborate kind of on your philosophy on life. What do you think life is for? What do you think it is? It's okay to not know things, but let's explore some ideas based on some ideas of why we're here based on, your experience of being here.
Yeah. Wow. It's a huge question. And I feel like whenever I'm starting to, Yeah, I feel like whenever I'm starting to feel like I have an understanding of like, oh yeah, this is why I'm here, this is what I'm doing, this is the myth of the world I'm living, I feel like it gets like shattered and like a whole new thing opens up. And the experiences I was talking about before, I feel like really it was one of those moments from like, why, what is my purpose here? Is it, and I sometimes question if it's like being so committed to music is taking away from other potential areas I can also be putting my energy towards. And I feel like I created this really intense focus of like, oh, I want to do music and no plan B, but I'm also realizing that I have a lot of other passions, and just I think having an openness to just being reborn within my life multiple times, of just like being open to everything shifting. So I think my at the moment philosophy is just kind of being fluid with, and not being too identified with my personality or who I am or what I'm doing, and just follow the feelings in my body. Yeah, and as far as like what the whole purpose and meaning of everything is, I can't give any sort of idea, because every time I do, I'm just like, it doesn't stay, which can be really tough sometimes. I wish I had some like, ooh, this is the clear focus and purpose for why I'm having this experience. But at least if I am doing stuff that feels authentic, like music and art and just like being a good person, that's something I can anchor to, of just like, it doesn't have to be, I don't have to understand the complexities of all the layers of reality and what's all going on, but I can just drop into what the feeling I'm having in each moment is, and just like keep it as simple as that. And because I've definitely gone into deep philosophical things of like, what is the meaning of all of this? And it's not always super helpful for me to go too deep into that. But just, yeah, just anchoring to the simplicity of the feelings and just like staying in my truth of like what feels real to me. That's kind of my way of navigating the world at the moment.
So I really like that, the almost like the rebirth and the reimagining is what life is about. That it's like you're making it up as you go. I feel like that's what Source is doing. That's literally what the creative intelligence of universe means, is that it's like something's making all this up. Which means that's what a flow state is, like life and reality has this fluidity to it. So I had this strange impulse to like pull some tarot cards while you're talking about life like that. So if you're down, I'm just going to throw out a few cards and tell you the 5 that the spread was.
Yeah, hit it.
So, and remember, this is like in context with like the meaning of your life. I'm not saying this is the only meaning of your life, but like, some why you're here context. So you have,
let's do it.
First it was the 4 of discs. So this is like, coming into some competency of material security, like figuring out how to be secure materially. But then with it, like they came out as a pair. With it was the 7 of discs. And so this is about, hard work, a job well done, but not wanting to do work as somebody else's servant. Like, like, okay, I know that I could, but I kind of want to do my own thing. I'm not satisfied. I'm not satisfied with being a cog in another person's machine, even though like I would be a really great worker, and I am a good worker. And then, so interestingly, the next one that comes out is the Magician. So this is like the entrepreneurial spirit. This is the one that goes their own way. This is the one that's understanding the forces of the reality and harmonizing them to create the experience as they go. And then finally, we also, there's 2 more. We had the High Priestess, and this came up in an upside down. Now, to just put it simply, there's a lot of possible meanings for a reversal of the High Priestess, but like, I think the context with the rest of the conversation is that the High Priestess reversal actually means cessation of fear, like no longer no longer being afraid, getting over sort of, you know, feelings of loneliness or bad mood even, and like lightening up. So it's interesting that they came up one after the other, because this is card 1 and card 2, you know,
wow, yeah.
numbers 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So I see there's like, you know, becoming the magician, but then like the magician learning how to not be afraid of conjuring all those forces and interfacing with the unknown. Because, you know, this is also like as the yin representative of the major arcana, the major one, the major yin, it's like the unknown. That is the unknown. Like, what are the laws of this universe? And as you just put it, like, as soon as you think you have it figured out, it's like, okay, we're gonna pull the rug on you, and it's actually this. So anyway, the last card that I pulled, that I put in the middle of all 5 of these, was Temperance. So like, this is the card of the artist who's, you know, like mixing and balancing all the elements, 1 foot on the earth, 1 foot in the water. And like, this is, in other decks, this card is called Art. So
wow,
you know, this is the card of the artist. It's the one that's like learned how to manage their own personality traits, for the positive and the negative ones, to synthesize their experience of the external reality into something that is aesthetically and objectively beautiful and helpful for themselves and for others. Kind of like you said, like, you know, making music for the way I would listen to it. You know, that's my philosophy too. I try to make the show that I would want to listen to. So the Temperance card is a good reflection of that. So you know, I don't know why I just wanted to pull some cards for you, but they totally tell the story of what we got from you in this show.
That's
so far.
Honestly like eerily capturing the arc of my experience. And yeah, thanks for pulling. That feels profound. And I like that the temperance is at the end there. And yeah, because it feels like I'm just getting pulled so deeply into all these different things. But at the end of the day, I'm like, what's the point of that in my overall experience, and how can I like synthesize that into something more vast yet grounded? So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what phase of that I'm in right now. I feel like things have been really interesting, and I'm being exposed to a lot. I'm trying to ground that back into my creative expression, and yeah, tempering all the different directions. And yeah, it's something I really feel is this thing of, you know, like I create this alias Volo, and it's this whole like, you know, it was really healthy for me to have this like other like alter ego to just like put music out, and it could like, I could create this new version of myself or something. But I think also I've had this feeling of not being too attached to that, even though it was like the first thing in my life that I felt so connected to and was so like beautiful for me and important for me, but also being willing to let go of that and then letting something new emerge afterwards. Because it was easy to let go of my insurance company job, but it's hard to let go of something that at once felt really true and still does feel true, but more stuff is wanting to emerge. And so it's like, okay, how much can I do in this lifetime? How many times can I like rebirth in one lifetime while also synthesizing it all? It's yeah, it's tricky.
Like you had an aversion to making an identity out of insurance guy, but an attachment to the identity of music guy. So it is like this juggling in the temperance sense of like aversions and attachments, and realizing that like I'm just the witness.
Totally. Yeah.
My attachment to being music guy could be just as limiting as my aversion to insurance guy, or as being insurance guy would have been limiting, I guess. And that's why you had an aversion. Anyway, like I was curious about Ashtanga as a word. So I looked up like the etymology on it, and it refers to the 8 limbs of the
8 limbs of yoga. Yeah.
Right. Which is also the Buddha Dharma wheel. So yeah, one of those is, you know, one aspect of that is managing attachments and aversions, and not being sort of trapped by what those can create in life. And I love that, you know, it's very important to see. I had that too myself. Like I started to move into the direction of like, I'm going to be an artist, a visual artist. I'm like going to subsist on selling art. And like, then I pivoted from that identity attachment to do this. And now, like, you know, I'm always trying to watch out for not being too overly identified with one way of doing life, because there's always going to be more opportunities and we can expand. And it doesn't mean the old stuff goes away, but like, it's what you said is profound. So just made me think about it a lot.
Yeah. And this just popped into my head real quick, but I have this feeling sometimes when I play a show, it's just this weird feeling where I'm playing songs that I made, you know, 2 years ago, 8 years ago, and 5 years ago. And it feels kind of strange sometimes because I feel like I'm playing these like past versions of myself or my experience, which is super real, but it doesn't always feel like totally where I'm at right now. And that's why I like, for me personally, I really like watching people that are doing like a live looping or just like something that's just like in the moment being created, because that's their in the moment experience, you know, like I'm combining my whole journey, which is really cool because then I can have, you know, a broad diversity of experience, you know, like the same way you'd have an arc in a song. I have this whole life journey and I can express that in a set through all different things I've been through. But I also just appreciate seeing something that's being created in the moment, the authenticity of that creation.
I was wondering, do you play any live, not live maybe in your set, but do you play any instruments outside of like Ableton production?
I love piano. Piano, I can kind of just flow on, and I know like basic guitar and bass, and I know really basics of music theory. I feel kind of this thing where people are like, oh, like what instrument do you play? And I'm like, I feel like I kind of like play the computer. Like I really go deep on like engineering and soundscapes, and I have MIDI pads that are doing all these things. And I think it's hard for people to understand how the music production process even goes. It's kind of like,
it's like the instrument is your imagination. And so the way that a guitar is limited by the tonal progression of fret to fret, right? Whenever the instrument is your imagination and the computer is the interface for that, it's like in some ways, depending on like, you know, the discipline and the creativity, or like the sort of the integrity as a portal, you know, a channel of scooping etheric information and being the channel that it comes through. Depending on that, like somebody whose imagination is their instrument, that it's harder to like quantify because you're not like watching them do this virtuoso thing on a physical instrument. But you know, people that don't have the inside baseball on music production and what it takes to make some of the sounds and to layer and blend and mix and master and create the atmosphere that you're describing, like there's no necessity of comparing apples to oranges, but like that's a real, you know, there's a real virtuoso skill to that as well. And to accurately and portray emotional and experiential things from your life and who you are, like to give somebody else that feeling in your chest that you got when you're making this Axis Mundi song, that's wizard shit.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's yeah, there's so much there. And there's just I would like to just keep exploring my what I could offer to the music space. And I keep saying like, oh, I'm gonna like really learn more instruments, but just what I'm really drawn to is like creating atmosphere, and like I feel like there's room to expand for sure, but I also just want to like do what I feel that most inspired to go really deep on. And yeah, so I really like to record other people that are really have practiced their instrument for a long time. And sometimes I'll send some instrumentalists, like, you know, just a soundscape and a beat, and then they'll play on top of it. And I'm not trying to like learn and do it all. I know what I'm like drawn to really going deep on. And then, you know, I just collaborating with other people that have different skill sets is like, seems like the move.
Yeah, instruments are pretty limiting in a lot of ways, so it's great. That's a good idea. You know, if you have an idea, if you're like, okay, I want a bass guitar on this one, you could send it out and have someone just play over it. That's where you get some of the best results like that. You really do, because there's a lot
George
more
up over here.
Hey,
He'll slap at the bass.
I'm always ready to play some bass. But yeah, you get so much when that level of freedom and respect for the musician, like just do something on this. It's a lot better sometimes than, okay, I really want this here and I want to put this here. It takes away from it sometimes, you know. That's cool.
Totally. Yeah. And I think just having this, you know, not being too identified with like, ooh, I'm the, you know, this music producer guy and I should like do it all myself, but just being like, have this collaborative spirit of like, what if we all came together, like we can make something, you know, so much more amazing, but then also having that temperance of like, okay, how are we going to create this into like a sphere and something that is defined in a way, you know? And I think somebody kind of has to, you know, I feel like I can be in that role of like, okay, I got all these parts and pieces, and now I can make it into this collage of things. And so yeah, that's something I really want to get more into, is like just getting more collaborative, working with more musicians, and just that can offer stuff that I just don't have the time to go super deep into, and see what comes out of that.
Well, guys, we're moving towards the end of the, you know, a couple hours here, so I'm not rushing us off the screen or anything, but anything left on the conversational topic list we want to bring up or ask Oliver, or just rescue some dangling chads out there? Gabriel, starting with you.
One thing I had made a little note on the temperance card, that Oliver, you might get some enjoyment out of this. We had a realization with Mario and Michelle regarding that temperance card a while back. I was doing some really rewarding experimentation with absinthe, and absinthe has some kind of off the radar ingredients that, and it does have purifying value. This is not medical advice. But I do recommend giving it a shot. You know, I think everybody should, you know, find the space to make it a sacred experiment with, you know, the possibilities that it could yield for all of us. But it turns out the Artemisia is one of the many ingredients of absinthe. And Artemisia, we think, was part of the spirit that was infused into the temperance card. In not just the Crowley deck, in other decks as well. I've actually seen that Artemisia is correspondent to that temperance card. So, and so then Michelle brought it to a whole nother level when she revealed that that has a strong relation to mugwort, and that mugwort is also really good medicine for journeying into the dream realm. So maybe I just thought I'd throw that experiment your way and see if it sticks.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that,
mugwort, Oliver, because it's supposed to like protect you in the dream.
Yeah, I mean, when this was all first happening, I was like, okay, just looking into all this stuff of like protection sort of things. And so I was, I went through a phase of where I was drinking mugwort tea, I was burning mugwort, and the area I'm living now actually has mugwort growing. So I've been kind of like communing with that plant spirit in some sort of way. And I think this is just a reminder to, you know, because I haven't in a while, to maybe get back in touch with mugwort. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Oh yeah, dude, if you're living around it, then it's constantly got its eye on you in a great helpful way.
Yeah,
very true.
I'm constantly reminded of like the plant spirits are super helpful and beneficial, and sometimes I forget about that, you know, and just getting back in touch with all the herbs that can be really supportive, I think, is something that is just coming into my awareness right now.
That's cool. That's super cool. I had no idea.
I'm gonna have to try some absinthe sometime, Gabriel. Maybe why don't you get a bottle of the kind you like and come visit?
All right, right on.
Make
Let's
a ceremony out of it.
Yeah, buddy.
So, George, you got any thoughts that you want to drop on us, or questions, or anything that's been on your mind? You know, really like hearing from you. Man, I'm so glad to have you as a more regular character on the cast too. You're so awesome.
Makes me very happy, really. Makes me very happy, man. I don't know if I have any gravy in the ladle right now. I think this conversation went in some very interesting directions, and we get to talk about all kinds of stuff just from the heart. A lot of honesty coming out. It was great. And I will mention that this past eclipse was really profound, it seems, and everyone that I've talked to, they admitted something without realizing it, that something crazy has happened to them in the past few days, whether good or bad.
You remember what you and I talked about yesterday? That was my eclipse experience. And even now that, like, after that day is over, the intensity of it is quite a lot less. But
yeah, it was a crazy,
like, I had this experience where I was feeling a bit like kind of like attacked by some negative energy, actually, in the form of in a friendship. And today, just to prove to myself, even though I didn't need the proof, that the biofield anatomy is a real thing, like, that situation was kind of unresolved. And today at the gym, while I was lifting, I hurt my back right shoulder. And that's the part in the biofield that deals with feeling attacked by negative energy from the outside. So like, my body is like, no, that's not resolved yet. Let me show you. So
right.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, once you know that language and the anatomy of like what different parts of the body are telling you when they get hurt, becomes kind of makes navigating life almost like having a map, like a roadmap that you otherwise don't have, of like, okay, nothing's an accident. No injury is accident. No disease is an accident. So I know what that relates to. I know the exact situation it relates to. I know how to resolve it and make, all that better, or at least to do my part to feel resolved on it. And so I will, but it's pretty wild. Like that eclipse, that eclipse showed me. And, even that happening isn't even about the one-to-one relationship with the individual that I had the experience with. It's more like, I was carrying that energy in my biofield anyway. And so the experience in the external is like a universe, like showing me, hey, this is what to pay attention to next. Like it was going to happen somehow, some way, it was already, it's like a chicken or egg thing. The energy was there, it was part, I was carrying that energy. So it really helps to not, to know this stuff really helps to not blame external situations or people for, what you're going through, and instead see everything as a straight up mirror of like, this is the energy I was bringing, this is the experience I got. And it's like, it takes the judgment out to a degree. You might still need boundaries, or you might still have to do some, hard conversations or things like that, or express things that you were wanting to keep bottled up, but it is to your benefit to express those things and to set those boundaries, or air those grievances, or whatever it is. If you hold them in, you're going to then it's going to pop up as dis-ease or a jam in your flow in a experience in the external, or both. Right.
Yeah, man, totally.
I say all that like to air all that because you brought up the eclipse, and like I put that in the title and we didn't even talk about eclipse. I know. How was everyone's eclipse, gentlemen? How was it?
It's kind of crazy you brought up the mirror thing, because mirrors have been like a really mysterious thing in my experience, where I'm just like, whoa, something is going on with mirrors that I don't understand. And just last night, I had like a dream experience that was kind of really difficult. And part of it was somebody was holding a mirror up to me. And then I felt this like this dark, like difficult experience with me, but it was like somebody holding a mirror up to myself. And it was like this, whoa, it feels pretty profound. And I feel like I'm still just even having this conversation and you guys talking about this, I'm like starting to unravel that a bit more.
Wildly enough, in the tarot, that was like expressed with the magician followed by the high priestess. Like that sequence is that exact thing.
Yeah.
Because like the magician's playing with these laws. This is also the monad. It's the number 1 card. And then the duad comes up, which is number 2, which is the high priestess. And she's sitting there. He's standing. She's sitting. He's got open behind him. She's got these pillars behind him. He's 1, she's 2. He's playing with the laws, and she's holding the law. Like the he's expressing the laws, and she's like, she's showing like the written law or whatever. Anyway, so that came up in that mirroring thing was totally part of those tarot cards a second ago.
Totally.
Beautiful.
Gabriel, how was your eclipse?
Oh my gosh. Very intense. I've actually, I think of it as the whole season. I think of it as starting with the partial solar and now having the full lunar. It was very intense. And I feel like I actually got a lot of uploads kind of expressed and blossomed and came to full a full completion. And now I'm kind of detaching from that phase, and I'm looking forward to actually going back and kind of, a lot of my slick dissident shared learning experiences, just basically like me journaling my learning experience, my learning whatever uploads. I don't know what else to call them.
Emptying your cup. I get it.
Emptying my cup. And now I'm looking forward to going back and kind of seeing like, okay, that's when the eclipse happened, and get up to date and see where everything's brought me. And then I can kind of let go of it and move into something else, a whole new project. Because I really am like, I'm done with the eclipse thing. Let's move on. I'm totally ready for something else.
Oh man, I feel like I run a couple days ahead of the sky clock usually.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's from my son being in Aries or something, but yeah, like I spent like 3 days of doing nothing but researching and preparing for that solo show I did.
Yeah.
And so that felt like my big eclipse energy expression, as you're saying, emptying the cup. And then yesterday, the day of the actual eclipse, I was just like exhausted. I was super tired, and I just took it slow. But yeah, you got the power knocked out with weather, right? You're up north, right, Oliver?
Yeah, and it's crazy because I'm not like that far up north. We just had this really out of nowhere big early snow, and power got knocked out all over. It's just kind of trippy because I feel like it was just blistering hot out here, and now we're having like big snowstorm. So just feeling, and I live in a yurt now, so I'm pretty exposed to all this stuff. So yeah.
Wait, you live in a yurt?
Yeah.
How did we not talk about this yet?
That's cool.
Yeah, it's only been a couple months.
That out,
right?
Yeah. Right now I'm in my studio space that I rent. This is super new. I've never had a dedicated music and art space. So I'm like super stoked to have a separation between home and creative space. But yeah, I moved into a yurt a couple months ago, and it's been really humbling and also really epic. I feel so much more connected to nature, just hearing all the bird sounds. And I had actually speaking of lions, I had a crazy lion experience where I woke up in the middle of the night, and this was a full moon night. And I had this like feeling in me that was like, ooh, whoa, something's going on. I felt like this primal thing kick on, and I went up to the door, and this is when it was really hot out. So I had the door open, and I have like a screen mesh on my door, and I walked to the door, and there's a huge mountain lion, like literally right at my doorstep, just like looking at me in the face. And then I kind of startled it and knocked over my bike and some other stuff. And then it kind of walked away a little bit and looked at me, and then just kind of like slowly just walked away, like super badass jaguar, like just right into the full moon light. It was like I kind of went back into bed, and I was
didn't
like,
you say that you're a Leo moon?
Yeah.
So the lion came in the night and walked into the moon.
Yeah. Whoa.
Did you just meet yourself in the mirror, dude?
Holy shit. Yeah. This is crazy. I didn't even like put that together.
Wow.
Yeah. So that seemed like some sort of like spirit animal experience, because it was really profound. And after that, I was looking up all the sounds that mountains lions make, and they make really interesting sounds. And sometimes I'll hear them roaming around the property, and they'll make like little bird chirps and like really stuff you would not expect a mountain lion to make. But yeah, just feeling super connected to nature and just the realities of weather.
Right.
But yeah, it's been an awesome experience so far.
Wonderful.
George, how about you? Any eclipse vibes?
Well, I think that mentally, I know I just started this show like 3 months ago, and I've been thinking about it for like 30 years. And now that it's happening, and now that things are flowing in a certain way, the moving right up to this eclipse, I've had certain, feelings, good, bad, success, not success, whatever. But this common stuff you'd get when you start something like this. But I really felt settled and grounded as a result of it, regardless of all the chaos that seems to be happening with everyone I've ever talked to about it in the past 2 days, the past day. But I feel I have a very good sense, a good trajectory coming from it. I feel like it's a platform for, forward motion for me.
Nice. Yeah, man.
So I really like genuinely sense it. What do you say?
Oh, you're totally crushing, dude. Out of the gate, the production quality and value, and like it's all really good. If you keep going, it's only inevitable that this thing will blossom into many serendipitous synchronicities for you. So keep it up if you're liking it.
I accept that as a super positive thing, man.
Third Eye Edify on YouTube. Go check it out, people.
That's me.
Yeah, man. I want to drop in and listen to your show too.
Yeah, check it out.
So, Oliver, I have this book of Native American animal medicine.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So I'm going to read to you the page about mountain lion.
Oh, mountain lion specific. Okay. Yeah. I'd love to hear it.
It's a very Leo type of message anyway. So it says, mountain lion can be a difficult power totem to have because it places you in a position to be a target for the problems of others. You could be blamed for things going wrong or for always taking charge when others cannot. You could become the perfect justification for the insecurities of others. Mountain lion medicine involves lessons on the use of leadership, the use of power in leadership. It is the ability to lead without insisting that others follow. It is the understanding that all beings are potential leaders in their own ways. The use and abuse of power in a position of influence are part of this great cat's medicine. By observing the graceful pounce of mountain lion, you will learn how to balance power, intention, physical strength, and grace. This relates in human terms to the balance of body, mind, and spirit. The great feline never wastes anything. It only kills what it needs for survival. The female lion is the hunter who graces her table in a style akin to mother energy. If mountain lion has come to you, it is a time to stand on your convictions and lead yourself where your heart takes you. Others may choose to follow, and the lessons will multiply. If you have encountered the mountain lion, you may be asked to review the purpose behind your personal beliefs. You may need to discover whether or not your plans include a pride of cubs wanting to be like you or to share in your dreams. If you are already a leader, the question may be whether or not the time has come to push the cubs out of the cave. If you are aligned with cat medicine, you are considered to be king of the mountain and never allowed to be human or vulnerable. The pitfalls are many, but the rewards are great. In assuming the place of power that mountain lion affords, you must constantly be aware of keeping peace. However, you can never make everyone happy unless you lie to yourself or others. This is human nature. Therefore, the first responsibility of leadership is to tell the truth. Know it and live it, and your example will filter down to the tiniest cub in the pride. Responsibility is no more than the ability to respond to any situation. Panic is not a part of this sacred medicine.
Wow.
That's
amazing. The way all of this is weaving together is pretty wild to me. Thanks for sharing that, dude.
Very cool.
I figure everybody could used to hear, like, that could be good for anybody to hear. We all, like it said, we all have some level of leadership in our life, and that story is like all of our encounter with mountain lion for today. That's wild. So, like, did you feel the panic of it, or did you just feel the awe, or was there some of both?
No, it was almost like this feeling I've never quite felt before of, like, it felt very primal, and it felt like it activated something in me where I was like so hyper aware, but it was almost like a mystical moment, you know, like when you're out in nature and everything, you're just like, whoa, this is like something shifted. Like that kind of happened for me, where it almost felt super surreal. And yeah, there wasn't really any panic or being scared. It was more just like this hyper awareness and kind of just this mysticalness to it.
It's like, I imagine it just pulls you right into the moment, because like you need your full attention to be on what's going on right now, just in case, you know. And
Totally.
if you bring your full attention to the moment, that takes the edge off or reduces the fear response as well, because your vigilance is there, so there's nothing to be afraid of. You're ready to respond. And so like the big cat just feels the energy of like either security and confidence or fear. And you know, it's like this mirror amplifying that. So like, man, I can only imagine how it's hard to even put into words. Like you say primal experience, but like, you know, that's I'm feeling it. I'm feeling you channel the feeling of it to me, but the word part of it is just almost like a vessel, and the description almost doesn't matter. If you know what I mean?
Totally. And it's interesting when I'm kind of like thinking of what I was looking into, like, okay, if you run into a mountain lion, what do you do? And part of what you do is you hold your ground, you like stand in your own. And I feel like that almost kind of relates to the experiences I was having of just like really holding yourself and not giving into the fear. Because if you like run away, that's apparently, you know, it gives it more, it thinks you're prey, so then it'll chase you. But if you hold your own and even kind of like, you know, just create your sphere and your boundary, it'll be like, it'll recognize that, and then it won't see you as something that's afraid of it, so it won't attack you. So yeah, there's a lot to that I'm just realizing as we're talking about it.
I didn't know that I was going to bust out like Oracle books and tarot cards this time around, but it's fun.
That is great. So I've actually had a couple run-ins with mountain lions and bears. I lived in Colorado for a while, and one time I was up very remote at the top of this beautiful mountain location, house sitting for a close friend of mine, and he had this gorgeous husky, like a mastiff husky, who was very protective, and the dog starts growling, and I know there's something out there, and so he wants to like go and chase it off, and I'm like kind of torn, like, you know, I know that the dog has marked this territory, and I need to honor the dog's ownership of the territory. And also, he's probably going to he was probably going to knock the door open if I didn't let him go chase this thing off. Right. And so before I let him go chase the thing off, because I went to the kitchen and I grabbed a metal colander and a wooden spoon. And I'm like, I'm going to scare this thing off too. I'm going to fucking join in the party, and we're going to fucking scare this thing away.
Yeah.
And I go out there with the wooden spoon and the metal colander. I let the dog tear ass towards it. And the dog actually did an amazing job of staying like 30 feet away, but barking his head off. And then I get out on the porch and I start trying to make a loud noise. And I realize the wooden spoon sounds like shit. It wasn't loud at all. It wasn't conveying any threat whatsoever. I was actually might have sounded like a dinner bell to this mountain lion. And so it kind of runs away from the dog more than from me. And then I went and I grabbed a huge clod of dirt and I just launched it in the general direction of this mountain lion. And what was amazing was that the clod of dirt, it hit a tree with such force that it echoed across the mountain range. And I was like, wow, the one that I was trying to make noise, I fucked up. And the one I was not trying to make noise, it did exactly what it needed to do. So it was like it was very unexpected. You know, my tactical maneuvers, they didn't work the way they wanted, but then they worked better than I intended. It was really funny.
Totally.
All right, guys. We have any other funny stories to get in? I think I'm ready to wrap us up.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm really grateful that you reached out and got in touch with me, Oliver. Like, it's cool as heck to be, you know, connecting like this and getting to know you better. And I hope we can stay in touch, or maybe we see you in the Telegram group or something. But, you know, just getting the heads up that you make this music and that I can go listen to it, that has been really awesome. I don't know if you've noticed, I've put it in some shows, and like, you know, I'm not just blowing smoke. Like I legitimately listen to, you're like one of my go-to people now. So, you know, if you could let us know ways that we could support you in what you're doing, rather than sort of just like the free listening experience on SoundCloud and Spotify, you know, I would recommend people to your Bandcamp, which I'm going to link, and I put in the show notes as well, that people can find. But is there any other way that people can sort of, you know, show you value for the value that you can bring to us?
Yeah, man. First off, I'm just like super grateful to be here and to be having these conversations. And thanks for like unraveling so much stuff for me. I feel like this has been super deep and really reflective. And so, yeah, I'm grateful for you holding the space for this experience. And yeah, you guys are all awesome. And I'm just stoked to be connected. And I'm sure we'll continue to do the thing. And as far as people supporting, yeah, of course, just streaming music is amazing, and I just want people to hear the music. But yeah, Bandcamp's great. That's one of the most direct ways to support an artist. If you buy their song, you know, most of that money goes to the artist. And on my website, volovibes.com, I have my last record that Axis Mundi is on. I have a bunch of vinyl for that record still. I think I have like 100 or 150 more of it. So if anybody wants to own, you know, a record or a piece of music, that's a cool way to support me, and just to have some, you know, physical, tangible thing with cool art on it. And I have other little items on there, some art prints and stuff. But yeah, my website and Bandcamp, and, you know, spreading the word if you feel called to. But yeah, I'm just grateful to be living this life where I can be creative and inspired, and I just trust that I'll be supported, you know. So yeah, thank you, man.
It's beautiful, man. I have a vision that we will see each other at a Music in Sky or an event like that.
Dude,
you know,
yeah,
and
totally.
you'll play
sure
some
we'll
music
cross
for
paths.
us. I'll hit some forks in your general direction, and like, we're just gonna have a really good time. High fives and stuff. It's gonna be awesome.
Super magic team. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. So Gabriel, where do people find you?
Slick Dissident over on the YouTubes, and also Weaving Spiders Webs Saturdays, and also there. Usually we do a flow state right after this on Wednesdays, so that's some spots to catch me. Also, you know, I jumped on with Rising from the Ashes. They're doing a thing Sundays, the slow burn. We had a fun one. We just kind of improv'd a show on vampires last week, and that was kind of fun. Some crazy shit came up, some real
Yeah, I'm
wild
gonna have to
shit.
go hang on that one these days.
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's get you in there. And then I'm really looking forward to I'm going to do a show with My Family Thinks I'm Crazy with Mark, and that's going to be fun. Maybe some tarot tories, and one-on-one. Now it takes a while for those to come together, because he like you know, I notice when I'll do a show with him, it'll take almost 2 months because he's got so many shows locked and loaded to go. But he and I are going to do one on Star Wars.
I was like that. I'm running like 2 to 4 weeks. Like that's good for me. I'm like, really, I'm on the edge all the time.
Yeah, once he's got a lot in the chamber all the time. But we're deocculting Star Wars, and just from him prompting,
oh man, I want to play.
I know. I felt
went on
bad.
a whole
Like,
Star Wars thing earlier this year, and like rewatched every movie, and I was like, this is some fucking sorcery right here. Holy shit.
yeah, man. Yeah,
especially the second trilogy.
I
guess I didn't ever rewatch the newest trilogy. I never did. Maybe I will, but
yeah.
I watched each of those only once, but the second trilogy, especially, okay, we're getting into the weeds, but like that sounds fun. Okay, that sounds fun. I want in.
Well, I'll tell you, the work I've already put into it is the kind of thing that can give and give and give. Because I wasn't. I thought we would just do a vague, overall, general kind of, you know, like we do. But I've really made some profound discoveries. I'm kind of freaking myself out. And so it might turn into like another like official Slick Dissident staple that we can always go to, because Yeah, some wild shit is coming out of that. So I'm looking forward to that. And eventually, man, we can drop it in the demystifiers, bring it to the table over there. So it's going to be some fun action for sure.
One of these days, like, let's just do a live stream on the Slick Dissident YouTube channel. I'll
All
drive
right.
if you need me to.
All right. Yeah, man. Yeah.
All right. That sounds really amazing, dude. And George, what's new with Third Eye Edify? Anything you want people to know about? What are you excited about? And tell people where to go. Third Eye Edify on YouTube. I did it. There you did it.
All right. There it is. Yep. YouTube, BitChute, Odyssey, of course, those places too. And I now, having done, the episode we had recently and last week's Vibrant, I'm still fleshing out a lot of musical ideas and, music versus whatever else you want to call it. At this point, it could be named anything. It's fresh information, brand new stuff, man. Just the idea of a Polaris, a center point, musically speaking, with everything dancing around it. I've been really kind of focusing on that, and I'm probably going to turn it into my own episode, but I've got a lot of other episodes coming. I'm going to be doing one thing a week at least, and I'll probably be picking that up pretty soon. Actually, maybe the start of next year, I might do more than one a week. But, I'm on Patreon. It's all the stuff that's on YouTube for now. So once I maybe get a little more action, I'll get some exclusive content. But I'm just constantly filling up pages and pages of stuff, and I've got episodes ready to go, and I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm love doing this. It's so it's good for me personally at a spiritual level, on top of being able to, what I feel is providing at the very least some entertainment and some thought-provoking things. So I'm looking forward to continuing.
Nice.
Right on. Well, guys, I'm going to play us out with one more of Volo's tracks that I like a lot. And then, Oliver, do you mind hanging out till after I end the stream? I wanted to ask you a thing or two off there. That'd be awesome.
Totally. Yeah.
I want to share something with everybody that kind of congealed. I learned something today that kind of has to do with, like you were saying, the circumpolar musical concept. I just learned that the word for scroll, the old, I think, Latin word for scroll is volumen.
Right.
And when I heard that, my mind thought, well, I wonder if they were thinking of that when they made the word vinyl,
or volume.
And volume.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, volume for sure comes from vellum. Yeah.
Totally.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this word for scroll, it has all this musical implication.
Sure.
Also from all born out of the same word. So I just thought maybe I'd share that.
That's because the original
Totally.
scriptures were also music, like musical
That's
notation.
exactly
George
right.
told me this.
Mhm.
I mean, I haven't got the receipt, but I believe it.
It's
Yeah.
very true. Oh, it's definitely true.
That's fun.
Well, all right, guys. Thanks everyone for listening. Please hang out for another couple minutes and listen to this song "Dream State" by our friend Oliver here. It's really good. And thanks for tuning in. I had a blast tonight. I love doing this, you guys.
This is
and
great.
Love you all. All right.
Peace out, y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Enjoy.